Nova Scotia mother is coming forward with a tragic tale. She's speaking out about her teenage daughter's suicide.
In Canada, another Afghanistan war veteran has killed himself. This is the third such suicide in a week.
Tragic story, a teenage girl who took her own life last year after she became the victim of an online hoax by...
Ashley Smith's short and troubled life came to a tragic end in a prison cell in Kitchener, Ontario. A suicide that could have been stopped.
Amanda took her own life on Wednesday after posting a video on YouTube about the constant harassment and bullying she endured at school and online.
This is Nunavik, a vast region in far northern Quebec, home to about 10,000 people, most of whom are ethnic Inuit under age 30. It has one of the highest rates of suicide on Earth.
This is figures released by Canada's National Defence said last summer 22 soldiers took their own lives in 2011. The numbers for 2012 have not been made public yet.
Ashley was placed on suicide watch. A camera recorded her every move, including her final moments of life before she strangled herself to death inside her cell. Outside, guards watched.
All too much for the teenager. In the closet of her bedroom, she hanged herself.
And then that's when I heard the scream from Tina, and I just took off, dropped what I was doing, and ran up there as fast as I could. And
I was barely a teenager the first time I tried to kill myself.
Addressing the guilt that they feel, because I think that's part of the suicidal ideation. I'm a failure, I'm a failure, I'm a failure, I'm not doing well enough. How can I deal with my kids? How can I deal with my extended family? How can they look at me? How can they see any value in me? Because I see no value in myself.
80% of people who die by suicide have a diagnosable and treatable mental illness at the time of their death. And we know that with medication, with psychotherapy, these treatments work. So we need to make these treatments more available in an informed way to everybody.
My first paycheck was larger than where my dad supported our whole family with. And I needed this money. I bought a beautiful penthouse with my boyfriend.
People commit rape, they commit murder, but nobody has committed suicide in this country since the early 1970s when suicide was decriminalized. And that's because suicide is a public health concern, not a criminal one.
My sister, she could care less. She did the yoga with my mom and drank the herbal tea. And one day, she took off to Nepal with her backpack.
I used to beg for somebody to do something about suicide and stigma. Well, that's not acceptable anymore. So instead, I've started doing something. When a leading cause of death among new mothers in the first year after childbirth is suicide, that's not acceptable either. When our First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities are being ravaged by a suicide rate 5 to 6 times higher than the national average, that's not acceptable. When almost a quarter of 15 to 20-year-olds die by suicide, that is not acceptable.
And of course, I know I cannot change the world by myself, but it makes me happy to at least support the change I wish to see.
So for those of you who might be thinking about suicide today, good. Keep thinking about it. And then start talking about it. and then start doing something about it too. We need you. We need you to be leaders in this conversation, whether we are ready to have it or not. And trust me, if you're anything like me, it's this conversation that's going to keep you alive every single day.
Some say life is what happens to you while you're making other plans. And it was exactly today, 13 years ago, on 6 December 2000, when my sister jumped in front of a train. Yes, she committed suicide. My knees on the cold bathroom floor.
I guess the ultimate advice to somebody who is feeling suicidal is don't. Don't do it. It will get better. I promise you it will get better. You may not believe it right now, but in my case it certainly got better.
It helps to share our story. So, I hope to be a voice for those people today, and to put a step in that direction, to approach suicide with empathy, no judgment, to open a dialogue and break the taboo. Thank you.